Congratulations for making it to day 5 or exercise 5, practice 5 of our confirmation retreat. Today we are going to conclude and wrap everything up with the Prayer of Examen. The Prayer of Examen. Hopefully for many of you, you've never encountered this before, so this is a brand new thing. If you have encountered the Prayer of Examen for you, congratulations. You're miles ahead of where I was at your age as a teenager. So Prayer of Examen. We conclude our journey together of practicing the way of Jesus, practicing disciplines to encounter Jesus through the Prayer of Examen. So this is a chance now for us to reflect on our week together, on all God said, did, and moved in our life during this week of pausing and practicing. This is a chance for us to reflect on our week together, on all God said, did, and moved in our life during this week of pausing and practicing. Pausing and practicing. See, the examen makes us aware of moments. Makes us aware of moments that at first we might easily pass by as insignificant, as not important, as blah, humbug, bleh. Moments that ultimately can give direction for our lives. The examen helps us see the things that seem to be disconnected, unimportant, not memorable, not rememberable, and tie it in together to the fabric of our lives, to what God is doing in our life. See, the definition of the prayer examen is this. The examen is a practice for discerning the voice and activity of God within the flow of our day, of our life. It is a vehicle that creates deeper awareness of God-given desires in one's life. So remember, practice number 2 of the week was about listening to God, listening prayer walk. Now we are wrapping it up with the examen. It's a chance to take all that we are practicing, all that we are learning, and help tie it into a nice little package. See, the practice of the prayer of examen is a chance for you to pause and slow down, for a chance for God to get inside your soul, for you to get inside your soul, inside your life, and see what God has been up to in this season, in this moment. So the practice. It's a regular time of coming into the presence of God to ask a version of these 2 questions. So there's lots of 2 of these questions you could ask, but it's about asking these questions so you can wrestle with and process with what God is up to in your life, in your soul, in the here and the now. So any of these 2 questions are appropriate for the prayer of examen. For what moment today am I most grateful? For what moment today am I most grateful? For what moment today am I least grateful? You're going to see there are always 2 sides of the same coin. When did I give and receive the most love today? When did I give and receive the least love today? What was most life-giving about my day today? What was most life-robbing, life-stealing, life-thwarting about my day? When today did I have the deepest sense of connection with God, others, and myself? When today did I have the least sense of connection with God, others, and myself? Where was I aware of living out the fruit of the Spirit? Where was I seeing an absence of living out the fruit of the Spirit? Where did I find experience in desolation? Where did I find consolation? See, the hope behind these practices is this. They keep you in company with Jesus throughout all the highs and lows of a day that we experience. It helps us recognize God's presence in our very experiences that we have on a daily basis. They help us develop more discernment and receptivity to God's voice. They help us hear and encounter God on the daily. It's freedom from acting the guru, the expert of life, and pointing others towards listening to God, not to me. The prayer of examen helps foster gratitude. It helps you become aware of your growing edges. It helps you become aware of your God-given desires. It helps you become aware of invitations to pray that God presents to you throughout the day. Examine is about waking up to the world around you. So for us, as we end this week, I have 5 areas I want you to pray through. 5 areas I want you to walk through. And after each one, pause it before moving on to the next one. So I'll give you instructions of what to do. So, in these 5 areas that I want us to pray on, and then we'll end with an exercise together. The first area is I want you to reflect on the school year that you've had. I want you to reflect on the school year that you've had, and I want you to answer these 2 questions for this school year. What was the most life-giving part of the school year so far? And what is the most life-sucking, life-stealing part of the school year so far? So what is the most life-giving part of the school year so far? And what is the most life-stealing part of the school year so far? Hit pause, take as long as you need, and then come back to me. Question 2. Confirmation. I want you to reflect on confirmation. And I want you to answer this. In confirmation, when have you had the deepest sense of connection with God, others, and yourself? In confirmation, when have you had the deepest sense of connection with God, others, and myself? And now the flip side of it. When in confirmation did I have the least sense of connection with God, others, and myself? When in confirmation did I have the least sense of connection with God, others, and myself? And this isn't just during confirmation classes, but in the season of confirmation. How have you seen God at work in you in this season of confirmation? Hit pause. Come back to me when you're ready for question 3. Question 3. I want us to dig into the quarantine, about the last month of our lives. In the midst of the quarantine, I want you to answer this question. For what moments during the quarantine are you most grateful for? For what moments during the quarantine are you most grateful for? For what moments during the quarantine are you least grateful for? For what moments during the quarantine are you least grateful for? Take some time, hit pause, come back to me for question 4. Question 4, the last week. The last week of your life. Just think about the last week of your life. Let me ask you this. Where have you been aware that you've been living out the fruit of the Spirit? Where have you been aware in the last week that you've been living out the fruit of the Spirit? Where in the last week have you been aware that there's been an absence of the fruit of the Spirit? Take some time, pause it, come back to me for question 5. Question 5. I just want us to talk about today, the day that you were watching this video. When today have you given and received the most love? When today have you given and received the most love? And when today have you given and received the least amount of love? When today have you given and received the least amount of love? Take some time, hit pause, come back to me, and I'm going to walk us through an exercise. Thank you so much for walking through those 5 questions with me in the Prayer of Examen. And to end the Prayer of Examen, what I typically like to do and what I like to walk you through is a thing called the Prayer of Release. All those ideas and thoughts that have just bubbled up into your soul, into your mind, into your journals, I want you to practice holding them loose. As with all things in life, as this quarantine, this pandemic has taught us, we have to hold our lives loosely. One way we practice holding our life loosely is with the prayer of release. I love combining the prayer of release with the prayer of examen because the examen opens us up to everything that God has been doing in us in this past season that we reflected on. So get someplace comfortable, and I want you to sit. And I want you to hold your palms out like this on your knees. If you're standing, sitting, whatever, just kind of make this posture with your hands. Start with your palms open. As you do that, I want you to picture I want you to picture you putting all those thoughts that you just reflected on in the exam, all those words, affirmations, struggles into your palms. And you're holding them there with your palms. As you do that, and as you visually picture it, I want you to hold on to them and ball up your fist. And just hold on to that. And I want you to sit there and think through all these things that you've prayed and processed. Think through everything you're holding on to, everything in your life, everything good, everything bad in your life that has come to mind during this week, during this season, during this prayer of examen. And I want you to sit with it. And I want you to hit pause. And when you hit pause, I want you to sit with your fist balled up for as long as you need to, thinking through everything that God has done. And when you're ready to move on, unpause it, and I will guide you through the next step of the prayer. Thank you for sitting with your thoughts, your emotions, your worries, your fears, your highs, your lows. Sense how you're holding on to these. Sense how tight your fists are balled. Sense it. There's nothing magic in this posture. Posture is a sign of opening us up to God, connecting us with Jesus through our physical body. Whenever you're ready, now that you're back to me, I want you to take your palms, which are in a closed fist, and flip them upside down. Palms facing the floor. And when you're ready, open your palms. This is to signify you dropping everything you're holding on to and releasing it over. And as you're doing that, you're not just letting go of it. This active release, the prayer of release, is you giving all these things up and over to God. The high, the low, the indifferent, whatever it is, you are letting go and giving them to God. When you're ready, before you leave and hit pause, I want you to come back to me. Just sit there. Whenever you're ready to flip your hands back over, that's the next goal. Is when you're ready, unhit pause, flip your hands back over, and sit there in a receiving posture. So when you're ready, hit pause, flip your hands over, and then when you're ready, hit unpause, and I'll walk us through the last step. So now that you're sitting here with your hands open, you're ready to receive. You're ready to receive all the new that God wants to give you. You're ready to receive God's blessing, God's peace, God's comfort, God's love. You're just ready to give over all the desires of your heart, all the struggles of your heart, everything that's going on in your life. You're ready to fully give it over to God. So sit there with your palms open, and I will close us in prayer. Jesus, thank you for these students. Thank you for the chance they've had to go on this past week, though it's been completely different than what we had in mind at the start of confirmation. Thank you for technology. Thank you for their willingness to engage with a digital platform and a digital retreat, to grow closer to you and practice new ways of engaging with you in their heart, in their life. I pray that whatever these things these students were holding on to, whatever they're giving up to you, that you meet them in their midst. Let them know that you are near. Let them know that you love them. Let them know that you have them and you care for them despite whatever may be going on in their life in this season. Thank you for these students. Thank you for meeting us this week. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you, students. That was the Prayer of Examen. I have one last video for you to watch after you hit end.